Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
Hey everybody, this is Devin, Cutthroat Cure on the forums.
And hi everybody, my name is Justin.
Yep, so Justin is awesome enough to join us again. Herman is currently out of the country, doing out of the country things. And Kevin's not with us. Something about how he couldn't hear his phone or something.
Well, thank you guys for having me again.
No, dude, I'm excited. I'm excited he came back, especially because we just had, not only did the CID drop yesterday, but literally about an hour ago, we had the first update drop as well. So we've got a lot of exciting things. Some things I'm a little pissed off about, but mostly exciting things.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what the doctors say, if it lasts longer than like 4.5 hours, you should get it checked out, right?
Or you should burn it all to the ground. Cannot believe fucking Tessma's not in there, and cannot fucking believe this recent update with Fire of Salvation.
Yep.
Oh man, the only thing that would make me more excited though is if we had a Circle player on here, so we could talk about how Red is getting a mini update first.
The Red forums I heard were very, very happy about that. They were ecstatic.
Oh, the Red forums are super excited. The Circle forums though makes it sound like you stole their firstborn child and burned down their house. They are
and then shit
angry.
on the ashes.
Yeah, dude, seriously. Devin, have you seen the rage on there? It's pretty amazing.
I haven't, but I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. It's like I've said for earlier CIDs, other than Grimkin CID, Battle Engine CID, the Trollkin CID, because that affected me, and then like the CIDs that we've discussed on the channel, like I kind of avoid it because it's just like, here's the way I look at CID. Do I find it interesting? I do. Oops. I find it super interesting, and I like to read about it, but I'm not physically able to go test it, you know?
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. And I think that's the beauty of what the CID is. If you're not able to test it and you'd rather play normal games, you are more than welcome to. Actually, I think you're more encouraged to, especially if it doesn't interest you.
Yeah, so like, and it's one of those things, like, we all know, unlike Mr. Justin Dew on here, I'm not, like, a high-tier tournament player, and I don't keep up with all the new fancy things. Like, I would rather run an event anymore than play in one. But so, like, when I hear things of, like, Fire Salvation, you know, getting added into a tier list, I'm like, that doesn't sound good, you know, especially when I start hearing people talking about their erections over an army. It's just like, but I mean, I can only imagine because, like, I already think that Menoth has been very strong for a bit. And, you know, to hear things like Bastions, who, do they still have Sanguinary Bond?
They do.
Yep.
So you basically just gave Menoth the exact thing that champions are, and we've already seen what that can fucking do. Here's the difference. Then you've got things like Harvey, who goes, hey, I'll just take a point and not even let him die.
No, actually, that's a pretty good point. So, like, one thing I thought was interesting about this, and Justin, maybe you could touch on this. This CID, to me, did not seem like there was a ton of new models coming out, but there was a lot of rework of older models. Is that correct assessment?
Yeah, like there's not a huge number of releases. I mean, there are like a good number of releases, I think. And I think a lot of the, every single one of the changes, for the most part, there was a lot of changes to like the quality of life of a lot of these models. So I think those were expected from like some kind of CID update. But there are some changes to these models, and there are certainly some models that we will inevitably talk about during this cast that I think are pretty powerful.
Fucking hand of silence.
I'm pretty happy with this CID overall as a whole. But yeah, I think like Exemplar Education was a theme that I think like people played. already. It wasn't. I think I think Guardians and or creators might probably needed this update more than Exemplar Indication. So it's not surprising that this first wave is a lot of like quality of life fixes.
So really quick, you guys are not getting a new theme list out of this, are you? The Exemplar Indication is whatever the last thing of it is. The Exemplar Theme Force is already a theme force that came out.
Yes. We do not have a new theme force.
So this is the first CID that's come out for a faction that does not have a theme force, which is strange. Oh, actually, sorry,
Yeah.
the Crix one? I guess the Crix one didn't have a new theme force, did it? It just adjusted their old theme force.
Northkin's theme force was already out well before we ever had information.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's true. All
Because
right,
remember, we didn't know what all the models did for Northkin, but we had a theme list.
Yep, yeah, and then Minions also had one. So I take what I said. Never mind. I'm a moron. Don't listen to me. So, Justin, why don't we get started? Why don't you just jump in, kind of tell us what your thoughts are. I guess you don't have to go through all of the rules, stuff like that, but why don't you kind of take it away on what your thoughts are?
What are the five? Here, let's do it this way because I think it'll be a lot quicker. Because usually we go over it every single model, and we always feel like we're running out of time. And just because Justin actually plays this faction recently, came very close to taking Adepticon Masters. Like, how about, Justin, you give us your top 5 changes, and then your top, like, what do you think is, like, the most impressive, the 5 changes that you're like, holy shit, and then the 5 changes you're like, eh. And I would start with the latter first, just so we can get more excited and generate the conversation going into the former.
Sure. I have like 2 pages of notes like ready for today. I'm pretty excited.
Nice. That is amazing.
So
You heard it here, folks. This is the most prepared that any Turn Extension cast has ever been.
And the most prepared it ever will be afterwards.
I'm assuming you guys want me to be very, like, I guess, level and objective about this, right? Because there are things about this CID that, like, I don't know, like, if I can be very objective about. I think some of it is just ball busting and breaking.
I mean, what I tell people is just be as honest as possible, because it's like, when I looked at things, I look at Madrak 1, and I go, that's some busted ass shit.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with the latter. The real question coming into this CID was whether or not the Bastions and Incinerators, which really didn't see much play on the table, were going to get buffed, and buffed enough to the extent that they become now playable. And then the secondary question is whether or not that playability is competitive. Right. So we got a Incinerator UA, and then we got a bunch of changes to kind of what the Bastions and Incinerators actually did. So Incinerators now with the UA have Shield Wall, and there are some other changes that were made to Elias. Elias is now a more of a support piece, and he has Desperate Pace for them. So any caster with like a +2 speed buff or reposition, suddenly these guys are like walking shield walling at 9 inches or 10 inches with a reposition 3. Especially with the new caster too, they're able to go, I believe it's the full 10 inches because she has dash, and then she has reposition as a battle plan. She also has defensive buff, like Inviolable Resolve, or like Menoth has 2 instances of Defender's Ward as well, which you can kind of like bounce around. So we're talking about like, really, for the Incinerators, the question I think people should be asking and should be testing in the CID is ARM 23 enough? Like, this is a pure melee unit that is going to do work in melee, and they don't have that many attacks. But is ARM 23 enough to get you there? Is ARM 23 enough staying power on the board? Some people would argue yes, especially with the new caster. She has Rock Wall as well. I'm of the camp that I'm not sure that that's enough just right now. And it's funny to say that if ARM 23 isn't enough, but it's still like, to me, it's kind of like you're pigeonholing your list building into like supporting this unit that, you know, like is going to require most of the utility resources that you're pumping in. Same thing with the Bastions. Bastions coming into the CID, we needed to see more. With the first week 1 update, they got defensive strike, which is pretty aggressive for them. But again, these guys are still like defense 11. And the Bastions are armor 16 with 5 boxes. Yes, they have Sanguine Bond, but they're not, you know, they're not champions under Madrak 1. Like, you're going to easily hit them, and then it's whether or not your army is designed to hit above a certain armor value, right? Yeah, Harby can keep them alive really well. Vindictus can deliver them pretty well. The new caster is very much pigeonholed into this theme force and to work with exemplars. But I honestly don't know if that's enough. And I think that's like, as a whole, all of those changes are kind of like my meh changes. I came into this halfway hoping that I would have to spend, you know, lots of money buying 2 units of Bastions and 2 units of Incinerators, and halfway going like, well, you know, maybe if they're not good enough, I don't have to. And right now, I think this question is still up in the air.
Well, I've got a full unit of 5 Incinerators you can just have.
I mean, if they keep buffing them, and they keep, like, you know, like we just got defensive strike today. Like, if they drop them down by points anymore, they add any more abilities to this, this might really change.
But
I also think,
didn't they just drop them to like 915? So they already dropped them by points. Is that not enough, you don't think?
I mean, so I think they're playable now. The question is whether or not, and again, and I'm posing this question as like, yes, they're playable now. I'm sure I'll see them on the table now, but are they competitive? Like, are they going to beat the Harbies, the Testaments, you know, the top tier lists right now in Menoth? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure it like crawls that high up, and I'm not sure it provides a different question that Menoth isn't like asking in a better way. Or that it answers anything that Menoth already hasn't answered.
Okay.
It kind of like to continue on that kind of like meh. I'm actually of the camp that our new caster is kind of meh. I think.
Really? She
yeah.
seems so cool.
She does, but you know, I made this list. I was having this like discussion with my friend Paul, and also, you know, like just thinking about it overall. Like, she fluff wise is supposed to be this like amazing defensive acumen like kind of caster, and like the big spells that she has, Rockwall is super amazing, right? Inviolable Resolve, pretty decent. And Hex Blast
Who else has Rockwall?
In Menoth?
No, in general.
In general, Baldur 2, right? That sees a lot of play.
Janissa used to have it.
Yeah. I'm not sure who else.
So we at least know who stole it from Trolls. It's like every CID, some sort of special spell we have just gets taken by some other faction. Like, we lost Star-Crossed, we lost...
I don't think Crucible Guard took anything from you.
Not yet.
And she has Hex Blast, which is kind of situationally super awesome, or just kind of like a really expensive nuke that you're probably not going to cast with the 6 focus caster. But her big offensive spells are Dash and Positive Charge, and those are big. But like, I don't want to, like, she feels to me like a Khador caster. Like, I'm not really doing anything that Menoth like does really, really well defensively. And you know, we can talk about like whether or not the defensive stat proliferation in this game is for the better or for the worse, right? everything that I think kind of is super competitive right now is all like based on like super defensive things. Like Haley 3, you have Cloud Walls, you have the Temporal spell that's +2 defense. You have Slayers, which are 13/19s. Like they have Unyielding, they have Carapace. Like it's just an annoying defensive stat to deal with. You have Madrak 1, who has champions at 16/20s in melee, right? Like it's just one of those like I think the proliferation of defense in this, and even I'll throw even Harby in there, right? Like I hate talking like about my Bay like that, but I mean Harby is just literally a question of, do you have enough attacks, all right? And I'm going to skew defensive stats the way so that like most of your attacks are meaningless. And I'm not sure that this caster does that all that well. I kind of like I've listed out like I think Thyra, Amon, and Fiora 3 all have more offensive output than her, and defensively in Menoth like Durst, Harbinger, and Victidictus all deliver those troops better of what she wants to do.
So what do you think is her niche?
I don't know. Like her feat is only like her feat. The first part of her feat encompasses all like Menoth models, so that's great. You get +2 defense, but the second part of her feat, you don't get to move anything unless it's an exemplar model. So it kind of pigeonholes her into this theme force, and so do her battle plans, which I think are very vanilla as well.
I do agree with that. I do think that's very strange that her battle plans only affect exemplars. That's very, very niche.
Yeah.
Even her feat only affects exemplars. Well, half of the feat only does.
Yeah, and so like it would be super awesome if I could like play positive charge and dash and then have those battle plans and have that feat with the unit Flamebringers, for example, right? I mean, that might bring her up to like me being excited about her, but as it stands right now, I'm like the same thing with Idrian's or TFG even. Like I'm just throwing things out there, but I can't move a Jack like with her feet, so it's like just worse. Pyros too? Question mark, right? And it's not like exemplars are known for their amazing stat on the defense side. Like we're looking at defense 13 tops, right? Most of them are defense 12 or 11, so like +2 to that is not in the realm of like anything scary. I think like I'm hoping that as the CID goes on for these next 2 weeks, that she will change up quite a bit, because I mean, outside of her being a beautiful model, there's no incentive for me to like put her on the table. For me. And so those are kind of like my 2 points about like the mez of that's what has happened. And obviously, like, you can put, like, quality of life changes there. Like, a lot of our models went down a couple of points, got an additional point of command. Or in the case Harby, 2 additional points of command, which is terrifying. But those quality of life changes, I think are kind of meh, and they should have happened. Same thing with, like, the Aaron's
That's not quality of life. There's no quality of life with giving her any more command than she already has.
Well, Harby is an exception. I think oh god, I'm gonna get in trouble by saying this, but like I think that's egregious. I think Harby having like a 12-inch command is not okay. I think she's already like a top tier caster in our faction. If not, like, I personally think she's like the best caster in our faction. But it was insane. I played a game last night, and it was without the CID changes. But like I played it with my buddy Bruno, and every single time we measured out martyrdom, I took note. And we measured out I took note, and we measured out my feet. I took note. Like, what does 2 extra inches look like on this? Like, it's insane. Like, you can't have that. And then, like, I get 4 extra Warjack points, and, like, the Indictor is great now. Like, why? I mean, sure, I'm gonna be happy about it. I'm ecstatic about this. This is one of the reasons why I'm so happy about the CID change, is the change to Harbinger and the buff to the Indictor. And I just get like a better upgrade from my Crusader now in the list that I'm running. And then on top of that, like they didn't nerf monks. They didn't touch monks. And they literally just buffed Harbinger.
Which is insane. Which is literally insane. And I don't understand how that has made it through. Like, literally, everybody talks about monks, like, how they're just way above their, basically belt class, and they just don't even get even a nod.
Yeah, I'm unsure why. Like, I almost think, like, Pagani is, like, trolling, like, us. Like, they're gonna... week 2, it's going to go up to 14, and then we're all going to be like, just, nope, we're reporting every game as a loss. We're going to keep it at 14. Like, this is going to be amazing. And then once CID comes out and the actual update comes up, she's back to 10.
Yeah, he's going to be like, just kidding, guys. I know what you did, and that's not okay.
Right? Like, I almost think that it's that good. I don't think this should make it through CID. Now, I mean, if it does, you're going to see Harby everywhere. Like, I don't think there's a reason not to play her at this point.
I mean, we already see Harby everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at Store Wars by itself. Store Wars Qualifier 1, was there or was there not almost a Harby on Harby mirror match?
There was. That's actually a really fun match to play, actually. Despite...
Oh, is it? That sounds like an awful match.
It just boils the game down to, like, positioning, and then beyond that, like, who can roll lower on their martyrs.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
It's an amazing, I think it's an amazing, like, brain exercise for you to go through as a Harbinger player. But yeah, there's some other very good changes. I think, like, so we can talk about Hand of Silence. I think he is amazing. He actually solves a huge problem in Testament's list, actually. One of the big things is that not only does he, like, create another, like, soul denial bubble for Testament, he can actually get souls from Electro Leaps and from Self-Sacks. And he can redirect those to Testament. So suddenly, Testament's biggest weakness of, like, attacks that RFP and attacks that don't generate souls will generate souls now for this model, and then this model can then siphon it over to Testament. That's busted. That's a straight up buff for Testament. Like, Testament's bad matchup suddenly became way better now. And Gade also, the change to Gade, that just gives Testament, like, the piece that he really needs. Because one of the big, I shouldn't say big, but one of the problems with the Testament as a caster for Exemplars is that you didn't have the speed buff that you had from Vindictus or Harbinger, like if either of them ran. You don't have the plus 2 inches of threat. But now Gade can give that, plus 2 inches of threat. So when you have errants that threat 10.5 inches in melee, and then Exemplar Knights that threat 11 inches, like, his game suddenly expands a lot, greater on what those models can do, where they can be on the board and still threaten, like, the peripherals of zones and clear zones very well. It was oftentimes very easy for you to dance outside of, like, Testament's threat range, and I think it's going to be a lot harder now because that list does get up the board fast enough that an extra 2 inches of that in any one direction is very, very, like, solid for that list as well. The change to errants, I think for the most part it's positive. I think it is, there's a give and take to it. You have less early game scenario pressure. They obviously, they lost Assault, they gained Quick Work, and they have passive Pathfinder now, which I think that gives you a lot less early game scenario pressure. And even very early games like turn 1, turn 2, where your opponent kind of has to deploy a little differently because you can just assault into them, especially their AD line. Now that they've lost Assault, they no longer have that, but I think they gained more consistency through the mid-game, like turn 3, turn 4, and then through the late game as well, because with Quick Work, they go back to their Mark II kind of status of they're able to like kill something on this side of the zone and then quick work and shoot something else on the other side of the zone off. And, in the mid to late game when you're scoring those scenario points, that's super, super helpful. And then obviously they did a quality of life change to our little mini feat, which was dumb because whenever we popped the mini feat, we got rid of our own upkeeps. Why do we like? Why is that a thing? So now it's only enemy upkeeps and animi.
So is there anything from the changes that you think is going to now give another faction an even harder time? Like maybe there was a faction that had pretty much equal footing with Menoth. Some of the stuff that have now lost it due to the changes.
That's a little harder for me to speculate on. We can, I think with both Harbinger and Testament getting better with this change, and then some of other lists potentially cropping up because the Indictor was buffed, the Judicator has seen a pretty interesting change and is now like a legit thing. Spray 10 is nothing to like laugh at, and
it's a lot cheaper, isn't it?
It's 35 points now, which I believe it saw like I don't know.
It's a point cheaper than every king.
It's 35 points now, and it has signs importance on everything now. So it has a lot more output, and so you might be seeing the Judicator on tables again.
What's the power of the spray?
I believe 12.
Okay, so at least it's not a POW 16.
I mean, it can very easily be a POW 16, though, right? If it's a spray 12, like with Menoth, you acquire it, it's a spray 14. With Fiora 3, it's a spray 16.
So exactly, and how many times can it shoot it?
Twice, and then technically, like Fiora 3 also has an assault spray as well, a spray 10. So yeah, I mean, like we are seeing with the reason why like McKay was like super like dumb. Like we're seeing that again, and in the Judicator, and I think like the Judicator will see a little bit more play. And I'm just throwing casters out there, like Fiora 2 with the Judicator now is also really really bomb because I mean, like signs importance on all those blast damage rolls. Like if it loses, everybody was speculating that it was going to lose an accurate at some point, right? If it loses an accurate, it might be one of the best gun platforms in the game. Malekith could probably see the Judicator at that point as well. And High Reclaimer 1, so you can have like Hand of Fate with the Judicator. You can easily fuel this Judicator also with Hand of Silence as well. And we didn't really even talk about our new giant church that we got, which I'm dreading having to lug around because supposedly it's supposed to be like a 230 centimeters tall, so I think that's like twice the height of a Judicator.
Dude, it looks so big. It looks bigger than a Colossal by a couple inches.
You would just split that bitch in two and then magnetize it so that you could put it back together.
You're gonna have to, but I wonder what the cost is gonna be for a model that big. That's gonna be like the $180 model.
No, I don't think so. Because don't forget that the major issue, so like it doesn't come down to detail, it comes down to the amount of pieces. So if you look at the blockhouse, the blockhouse was a single piece, and it was what, 60?
Yeah, it was $60, but that also didn't come out of the Bahi.
No, of course, but also look at like that's probably not going to be that many pieces. It'll probably be like multiple stackable pieces. So therefore, I'm going to say that at the most that thing is going to be 120.
Justin, what would you be willing to pay for that model?
So right now I have like I'm pretty hyped about that model. I do have some points of concern. Like, it is a structure, so it's not going to be able to move.
Which, side note, they increased the forward deployment by 2 inches for this model, which means the blockhouse is no longer a forward deployment. Will no longer be a forward deployment of 6. It'll go up to 8 as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. I think because also it's allowed in every single one of my themes. That's kind of interesting. It gets another 2 inches from exemplar indication, so it's sitting at, hold on, let me do math real quick.
12 inches.
Yes. It's so like I was referring to like kind of like the threat ranges of it. In exemplar indication, it can shoot everything up to the theoretically the shot and then the crevasse spray after the shot. It can shoot everything up to 37 inches away if you go first and 40 inches if you go second. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not broken at all.
I mean,
dude, you've got 8 inches. You've got 8 inches worth of safety.
That's true. You do have 8 inches worth of safety.
More than you had with the original Kane Zero.
Yeah. Those numbers are those numbers are slightly misleading because no one's gonna line up straight in front of you. But we're also not accounting for base size. I'm gonna assume that if you like are trying to like pinpoint and cross spray something down, it's going to be off of your own model as opposed to an enemy model. So like generally speaking, like you run like little small base models in there to like sacrifice and throw away. But I mean, if you have a large base model that you're sacrificing and throwing away, I mean that can get pretty like that can add another 2 inches onto that almost.
Basically, get the Judicator up there, spray, crevice.
So, you know, to answer your question, I probably would be willing to pay about $100 for that model. I'm not sure right now exactly how amazing it is. It sounds on paper pretty darn amazing.
All right, PP, can you please make sure it's more than $100 so we don't see it in the meta? Thank you.
Told you, 120.
I just needed to know. Need to know what the threshold should be so we don't see it.
I mean, like, it is a 14-point model that you're investing into your list, and in most, like, exemplar indication lists, throwing away 14 points is, and, like it eating up, like, your free UAs and solos and things like that, for a model that only contests. It can never score, right? Structures never score, unless something changed about that. It can never score, and it's, like, immobile. And it only has 28 boxes. So to me, like, it is a huge base, so it's a huge targeting beacon on it. It's got an amazing, like, 2-shot gun, which is pretty much what I would pay for a 14 cost 4-jack with a gun like that. But it doesn't get to move around. It doesn't have any melee attacks. It has all these abilities that are really cool. So value-wise, absolutely. But does it actually fit in a list that's actually going to do a lot of work? We'll see. I have to test it out some more.
So are you playing, like, yesterday after it was released, last night, did you play any games with the new models? Or are you having an issue finding people playing games with you, or what?
No, I'm going to start testing very soon here, probably this weekend. You know, we have Star Wars this weekend, the second qualifier. I'm probably going to be there for at least a couple of pickup games. It is also pre-comic book day, so I might like hop away for that for a little bit.
You do that shit before you come in.
But yeah, like I'm looking to get games tested. Yesterday was my usual gaming day, and I just kind of sat back with a huge grin on my face while everybody was shaking their head at me.
Nice. All right. God, I'm trying to think of what other questions to ask.
So as I said, with the faction thing, do you think that there's any faction that you didn't really have game into before? Like, I mean, maybe you had like 1 or 2 casters before and it was just hard for Menoth. Now, with these changes as they are, really like gives you like straight on, you know, complete game into them?
I think the boogeymen for Menoth are still Signar. I think it's still Signar, and I think it's still Legion. Not Legion. Convergence. And I think certain troll lists and certain Legion lists are still going to give us problems. Beyond that, I think all of these changes are positive, and it makes a lot of our yellow matchups, the matchups that we had game into, either advantaged us or like so much more advantaged us that they become greens. And I can think of like certain types of lists that depended on like spot RFP removal or a lot of RFP removal with Testament, with Hand of Silence now suddenly is not a thing. Or attacks that generated like Electroleaps. And those kind of attacks, I think those become not a thing anymore because I can self-sack and still gain souls is kind of ridiculous. Like I don't think I can stress that enough. I think like it is not okay for Testament to be that good. I think Harvey still has the same game plan. I don't think that particularly changes a lot of her yellow matchups so much that they become green. But it definitely favors the straight up buff. So like any yellow matchup that you were like, I have a 50-50 into Harvey, it's probably not a 50-50 anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot less, and I think it's because that Hand of Silence, he is so good. And in most themes, he's going to be free, which is what concerns me about him. He's a quote-unquote 7-point model, but reality is he's going to be a free model.
That's not true, actually, in most of Protector themes, because most of Protector themes are only medium or small base models that get to be free.
Oh, he's a large base, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a large base.
That makes me feel a lot better, actually.
Yeah, we're paying a premium for him.
Okay. That actually really makes me feel a lot better about him because I thought he was a medium-based model, which was making me super butthurt over here.
No, he's on a horse. He's speed 8. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, no, he's still super fast, but at least he is. That is a lot of money that is a lot of points. I mean, for one model.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Tony is no longer butthurt.
No, that's a lie. I am still butthurt, just not as butthurt. Let me rephrase that.
We also got the Exemplar Warder, which I've heard from a couple of other people testing it. He's super solid. He's just like a more defensively oriented like Knights Exemplar Seneschal.
Yeah, so let me ask you about him because now you have to choose between him or the Hierophant. Is that more of a toss-up, or what are your thoughts on that?
So he's an Exemplar model, and Exemplar Indication, you can't take the Hierophant. So I don't really have to choose that in Exemplar Indication.
Solid point.
If I was playing out of theme, I think most Menoth casters would want the Hierophant instead. It does make a compelling case for certain casters to start playing in Exemplar Indication that don't really need the Hierophant. But even then, it's an interesting question. Like, so I think that's a good question that you pose because I'm looking at a caster like Resnick 1, for example. Like, he doesn't see a lot of table time, but he's kind of like got this very amazing like one way like path to victory. And if he doesn't come, like if there are things in the way, it's not a good time for him. But if he can accomplish that, it's pretty ball busting. You know, he needs to cast certain spells on the spell list, so like the Hierophant helps out with that certainly. But Resnick 1, Resnick 2, Fiora 3, Krios 1, 2, and 3 all benefit from, I think, the Exemplar Warder, and I'm not sure if that's enough of an incentive for me to play those casters outside of Faithful Masses. To play them in the Exemplar theme, but this is now certainly a compelling case because that +2 defense, no free strikes, a shield guard on top of that, definitely. I think it's definitely a question that I think we can ask. Even a caster like Thyra, like beforehand, I would say like you shouldn't be playing Thyra in Exemplar Indication. Like it doesn't make too much sense. Like it's not a bad list, don't get me wrong, but I don't think like she does anything to help really deliver them outside of occultation. But they hit like Mack trucks with her, and they hit super accurately with her. But suddenly now with the Exemplar Warder, if he can keep up with Thyra, obviously, Thyra's pretty hard to keep up with. But if you can keep up with her, you can do the old like Thyra Gambit situation where you just put Thyra in front of your opponent's caster and see if they can get away. because next turn you'll kill them. She is defense 17, so she goes up to 19 with this guy in melee.
Oh, sorry, I just had my mic off. I was talking, and turns out I turned off my mic. My bad. Anyways, that's super ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of things to that you can flex this guy into. I'm just not sure that like Exemplar Indication is a good fit for a lot of these casters.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly part of the conversation now, and I think that's a good design piece. I think that's where I want to see a lot of these pieces going. Like I want these new models to incentivize me to play in Exemplar Indication.
Right.
And so they've done a good job at it. Like the Warder like incentivizes me playing in Exemplar Indication. The Hand of Silence, yes, definitely. But also the Hand of Silence can be used in most Protectorate themed forces, except for Creator's Might.
Really? Surprising.
Yes. Yeah, like I looked at that today too, and I was thinking like, oh, like he could just be playing everything. So this is just a straight up buff to everything. Like he has focus efficiency for Jax too. So if you run the Avatar, like it's great for casters like Thyra and Durst. It has a lot of synergies with any and all soul mechanics, so it does synergize really well with our new church, and it does synergize actually with our old Reclaimer solos, which haven't been seeing much play since like Theme Forces have come out. But now, like being able to get out like 3 instances of Ashen Veil or 3 Clouds, or they get Future Sight as well, like being able to spread around those souls, even if you're not playing Testament or High Reclaimer 1, is super, super awesome. And I think it synergizes very well, and it like starts bringing Reclaimers back into the fold of what you'd be interested in playing. And I hope they buff our new caster or change up her things like a little differently, because I don't think she's all that defensive. Rockwall, don't get me wrong, is an amazing spell. And I think that's probably one of her best spells outside of like her being an offensive caster with dash and positive charge. Rockwall is absolutely amazing. What I would like to see is her like, maybe get rid of Imbibable Resolve and put countermeasures on her. That'd be super interesting with errants.
That'd be very interesting, especially with the amount of speed that they could get up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing, maybe like instead of her battle plan, because the battle plans are even like even if they only work for Exemplar models, which is fine from this kind of like fluff/balance perspective, I think they're still very vanilla. Like Reposition 3 is like the only one that you're going to use almost 100% of the time. There's no real reason to do the tough one. You can bring Rupert for that, even if you wanted to. Like Reposition 3 is just so powerful. And then her little like last hit thing is that's more cute than actually like really good, and it only affects one model, so like it's not great. Like what I would have thought, and this maybe if PP is listening, they can take my advice or not. I mean, it could be too overpowered, but like give her the choir buffs for infantry.
Get out of here now. No, that should not happen ever.
I mean, we get it for our Jax. Why not just give it to our infantry? Like, it's not every single unit. It's just one unit every turn. But, like, I think...
I can't even right now. I can't handle you.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that would make her playable.
Yeah, probably would. Probably make her a little bit too strong, one would say. So, before we wrap up, do you have a list that you've built that you're excited about? Or is that too early in the process right now?
I think it's too for me. It's too early in the process right now. I do have like the modified lists of my original pairing, like Harvey.
I mean, let's be honest. Right before this call, when he got onto the call, he didn't even know about the new updated changes. So unless he's been making a list during this cast, I don't think he has an updated one.
Potentially.
I mean, I know exactly what I'm going to do with my Harvey and Testament lists. I think those two, I have lists built with these new models incorporated within them. But I haven't really tested the new caster. I haven't really tested any of these like Protectorate casters with like these new models in Exemplar Indication, and then adding like Sevi 0 into the mix as well. And that's what a lot of people are doing. I've been seeing some pretty interesting lists going around. I can talk about one that's floating around like the European meta that they're doing with the new caster. They're running her with 4 to 5 dervishes. So you have like between dash and the parry with dervishes, you get a lot of like you can't like tie these like pieces down in melee, and then you have a very nice delivery system with those dervishes for positive charge. And then they're playing her with a unit of incinerators with the new UA, because I think like the rock wall protects them really well. Inviolable resolve on them brings them up to arm 23, and they apparently that's enough to deliver that. And then they have a splattering of other stuff, the Knights Templar, models here and there, and then they're trying the temple, the new church with that as well. And if those incinerators die, I guess you just bring them back.
Perfect. All right. Any last questions before I guess we wrap this bad boy up, or any last thoughts I should say before we wrap this thing up? Nope. Looks like nothing. All right.
I said I was talking while I was on mute, so.
Nice.
But no, I don't know. I'm interested to see it. I remember I played Max, was the last person I played with Menoth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was bad enough. I would be even more scared if I had to play into somebody of Justin's caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Some of these changes sound definitely scary. I definitely think hearing the things changing with Harby is really rough. I'm really curious where trolls are going to fall. Does this give us a lot more options, of who we can do, or are we starting to be even more cornholed into playing certain casters? So, I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see what they do with the week 2.
I don't think you have too much to worry about from the troll side. I don't think any of these changes in Menoth will force trolls into a specific caster because one caster has just been invalidated by these changes. I think trolls game into Menoth is still very even-handed. I think a lot of it comes down to scenario play and positioning with a lot of these matchups. Harbinger is generally the drop into most of trolls, because we just can deny you things that die. Now I can self-sack out of your RFP removal from Band of Heroes, but I don't think that is going to be such a big edge, because I think you can kill so many things with a given troll army between snacking and everything, and you can dig pretty deep into my lines. So I think the game is still very yellow into trolls.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Turn Extension.
And I definitely want to extend a big thank you to Justin for taking time out of his busy evening to, come onto the cast and speak with us.
Yes, yeah. Probably should have said that as well.
Not at all. I super appreciate you guys saying that, and it's always a pleasure to come on and talk with you guys.
All right, guys. Have a good one.